Hey folks, thanks so much for being here. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up. What you're listening to is an episode from VJ Talks, my podcast. And this is a re-upload, so if you hear anything about, hey, go check out this link, go check out this forum, etc., it's more than likely not there anymore. So just wanted to give you that heads up before you went looking for something that wasn't there. Either way, thank you so much for watching. Please enjoy, and let me know what you think in the comments. Catch you later. Hello and welcome to VJ Talks, a bi-monthly podcast presented by VJH Creations LLC, where I talk about anything and everything to do with TTRPGs and sometimes larger pop culture. I want to give a quick shout out to Arcane Anthems providing the intro and outro music you hear in this podcast. Arcane Anthems creates free music for tabletop role-playing campaign streams and podcasts. Music adds immersion, tension, and emotion to role-playing games, but often streams and podcasts shy away from using music for fear of legal ramifications. Arcane Anthems wants to make it simple to add music to your games. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of VJ Talks, Jewishness and D&D, where I have 4 amazing Jewish creators in here so we can talk about, as the title says, Jewishness and D&D. And we're going to go around real quick and have everybody introduce themselves before we hop into it.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm Basic Human Kindness on TikTok. I've been Jewish my entire life. I use they, them pronouns. And there's a lot of things that intersect with Judaism and D&D that I am itching to talk about.
Hello, my name is Reed. I use they/any pronouns. You can find me on TikTok at DND5E and on Twitter and Instagram at Reed Barkowitz. I've also been Jewish my whole life. I'm a Jewish nonprofit professional. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, VJ.
Hello, I am Ezra. I use she, her pronouns. I am genre fantasy on TikTok, where I might post eventually. I believe it or not, have also been Jewish my whole life, and I got nothing else.
Hi, I'm Eric Silver. I've also been Jewish my whole life, 100% bar mitzvahs and everything. I am the DM for Join the Party, a Dungeons & Dragons tabletop RPG podcast. I don't know how to use TikTok, so I will ask all of you about that later.
We'll teach you, don't worry.
You can find me on Twitter at L_Silvero. That's my name if I was a Lucha Libre wrestler.
I love it. All right. Well, thanks for introducing yourself. And so let's hop in. And just to give like the listeners an overview. So pretty much what's going to happen here, I'm just here facilitating and asking a couple questions if there's something that I'm like, oh, I don't understand what's being said here. It's mostly just for these amazing creators to come and talk about their identity. And I did a little like planning doc in case anybody needed a jumping off point, which probably don't. I'm for anybody that doesn't know, I'm not Jewish. VJ, they, he, pronouns, just I'm black. And
those aren't mutually exclusive.
Those are not mutually exclusive. I'm just personally not Jewish.
Have you been black your entire life? Just
actually, it's kind of a Rachel Dolezal situation.
Oh no!
I've been black my entire life. And so pretty much there's going to be free form discussion, and then later on in this episode, we put out a Google form to ask for the community to ask any questions that we can answer, and we have a number of those that we will work our way through. Anything we don't get answered might still get an answer in the document. I will check in with my amazing creators if they have time to respond to the ones we don't answer. Otherwise, they'll get answered in a later episode when I bring all of them, some of them, other Jewish people back on. And but just to let you know what the potential areas of discussions that I just jumped it off of, does not mean all of these are going to get talked about, was golems, liches and phylacteries, dwarves, golems, and anti-Semitism in the D&D community. And to be clear, nobody's saying it's just the D&D community that's anti-Semitic, but that is the focus of this episode. Which, if y'all want to branch out from D&D, that's fine too. That's just the title. But yeah, so where do y'all want to start?
Oh boy.
May I jump off? Does anyone have an objection?
No.
So something that I love about D&D is the fact that the gods are limited, not infallible. And that definitely relates very much to the Jewish experience, because like, if you think about the ovens of Anket, it's literally a story about the rabbis arguing God comes in, puts in God's 2 cents, and the rabbis are like, "No, you're wrong." Which that happens in D&D with the gods. Like the gods can make mistakes, and I think that's very Jewish.
Absolutely. It's very funny thinking about like someone taking the standard issue pantheon of gods, and then you're like, I mean, they stole it from like Norse gods and whatever mix of fantasy, whatever it is. Like, oh, I'm gonna take Bahamut from here. I'm gonna take the folks from all here, and then of course, like you got devils and demons and all this stuff. But it's like it's all still filtered from like a Greek and Roman idea of gods that like, oh, they're up there in Mount Olympus, and you can fight them, and one of them will turn into a swan and have sex with you. Or a dragon, I guess, in Bahamut's case. It's weird thinking of it though, because I know it's coming from like a Christian idea of like things that are cool, like, oh, I'm only looking at this as it compares to my idea of Jesus, that like I can look at a pagan style or Roman or classic style god and like, yeah, I guess they are fallible, but like it's more, but there still is like that God thing where you can complain to a Jewish God, and he's like, and they're whatever pronoun you want to use for God, and they'll be like, interesting point. Stop complaining while I take you across the desert. But instead, it'd be like, wow, you don't bow to Bahamut. I'm gonna turn you into a dragon egg, and then I'm gonna eat you and all that stuff, or I'll curse you and throw you into the 9 hells. Which, I mean, that's like that's literally Dante in that way. So like, it's true. I agree with you, but it's funny. It feels like I don't relate to that stuff at all.
There is also like a very Christian-centric interpretation of like the gods that have been adapted and, for lack of a better word, stolen from like other cultures and in history.
That's so funny. It's like you're trying to shove it into like your port, like you're taking a cable that's supposed to go into like a UK port and be like, no, I need power.
Yeah, and like people use D&D for lots of different things, and like I'm not saying that like you shouldn't use D&D to like work through your religious trauma and like figure out what's going on there, but like the story of like, oh, I learned these certain beliefs and these certain viewpoints from a young age, and now I'm an adventurer and I have to go decide if like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, is like a very Christian-centric interpretation of like what the story of a religious person can be, and we don't really see the other side of it. We don't really see like the Jewish experience represented in it at all, which is, it's frustrating as like a consumer of D&D media.
A great, just to add on to that, because I wonder if we're going to veer in that direction so we don't have to go in that direction. But like, yeah, in terms of D&D media, it's like, man, every single institution of religion in Friends of the Table is just Catholicism. You know what I mean? And like,
same with Dimension 20, yeah.
Yeah, I was with Dimension 20. It's like, just because you say the church is bad doesn't mean you didn't invent the church in the thing you're doing. And like, I understand in A Crown of Candy, like I said this on Adventuring Academy when I talked to Brennan about this, where I'm like, oh, pogroms. I figured that one out. I noticed that. And like, I understand that you have to, that one was more of an algorithm and directly related to the actual church in like fantasy Europe, whatever. But like, it still made it, and it's still there, and like, you didn't have to make it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to put the Catholic Church in every single story you tell. So I 100%, I think I'm directly aligned with you on that read.
Yeah.
I think another way that sort of the experience of like Jewish experience differs from the way that gods are portrayed in D&D is that like, well, there's certainly a lot of like discourse and like arguing with God in Judaism. There's not like the one time where we think God might have actually like manifested on Earth, like maybe, and there's still a lot of debate, and like there was a lot of historical debate about that, was like in the wrestling with Israel. And it's like we get a lot more direct interaction from like gods and like their servants, and it's like, as opposed to being this thing that's like always sort of accessible, but like not always on your side sort of thing. It's like it's like walled like completely on your side and giving you the power to go forth and complete a quest, or it's like your like deadliest opposition or whatever, and it's always very manifest and always very in front of you, and instead of being just like a guiding force, it's always like so directly ingrained into whatever you're doing, I think, in D&D mostly.
Basic human kindness, I guess my question is, where do you find this being relatable, like when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons? Because I feel like we just spent a lot of time saying no, it's not, and I definitely want you to say it, because like I guess like the way that a warlock has a relationship with their patron, and you guys are on equal footing in so many ways. I definitely feel that way, relatively in the way you can talk to them, I guess, depending on what your patron is.
maybe we play different warlocks, Eric.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like, equal footing.
Cleric or paladin, where it's like, nah, man, you're a god. I'm your messenger.
I guess
at
that's
least
true. Yeah.
talk to your warlock and figure that and negotiate.
I mean, I usually am on the god end of it all, and I feel like I run very Jewish gods.
Hell yeah.
Elaborate on that. Talk
Yeah.
more
Okay,
about
so
that.
what I mean is, like, they don't tell the players what to do. They don't give them tasks. Like, they're somewhat involved in the world, but they're there to present challenges that are supposed to be left up to the players. They there is no what's the word I'm looking for?
Like
Divine providence.
Yeah.
Like, it depends on who is, and it depends on which of my gods I'm running. They're very fallible. All my gods are based off of me and 5 friends from high school, or 4 friends from high school, that we had a self-insert campaign and killed the gods in D&D, and those are my current gods.
honestly, that's very good. I like that a lot.
I love that.
That campaign took 2 years. And so my gods have distinct personalities. They're kind of dicks. And they have no problem testing people with no reason other than they just want to test them, like the Book of Job.
Yeah. I think from like a DM standpoint, I also run my games very Jewishly, especially when I'm like creating pantheons. I like my gods not to have all the answers. I like when players
Yes.
turn to gods and ask them questions, the gods being like, listen, I don't even know everything. Which is frustrating from a player standpoint, but like is Jewish from a DM standpoint, which is fun. And then even like taking like Jewish values and like creating a god for that value. Like in the campaign that I'm currently running, we have a god of like justice, like, which is a very like Jewish value. Yeah, so I definitely think that the games that I run are very Jewish, but I don't know if other people's games are as well.
I gave you Fireball. What do you want? What else do you need?
You had one spell slot and it lasted 8 days.
It's very good. This is nice. This makes me feel good. Right here, right in the chest. That's nice.
I do have one question. What do you mean exactly by like divine providence? For like those listening that don't know, I want to add, I was raised Christian, no idea what my faith is at this point besides something exists, and even I'm kind of confused about the title phrase divine providence exactly.
Okay, so divine providence is like God is guiding everything. Whereas in Judaism, God created things, but God is also kind of like a passenger along the ride.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's when you can ask like God or Jesus or the Spirit to tell you what to do next, that they know everything, or at least can give you the clarity of that, the kind of like all-encompassing. You go do whatever I say, and you're gonna be good. Then I feel like that sort of clarity. There's a black and whiteness to to like Christianity that I just truly do not understand. Of like things are good and things are bad, or things are right and things are wrong. I think when I'm running something Jewishly, which is something that I'm very happy that we're saying and makes me feel really good, the thing that I do the most is that things are always gray. And the thing when people are right or people are wrong, I think it's also hard, especially I really have a really hard time running fantasy genre because of that, where like you have a hero who's correct, who's going to come in and fight and cleanse the earth or the land of the thing, of the monster, or
of the goblins.
Of the
Oh,
goblins.
gosh.
Of the goblins, Jesus fucking Christ. And then it's all gonna be good because we fought the thing, right? And that's the thing that I cannot get my head around, because this is not how anything works, especially when you're not from the dominant anything.
Yeah.
Or when you're not from the dominant whatever you're thinking of in that relationship.
In addition to like the very black and white nature of Christianity, there's also like a blind faith there. Like you are told that this thing happened, and then you are just supposed to say yeah, or like you are told that this is a thing that you're supposed to celebrate, or a way that you're supposed to live your life, and you're just supposed to say yeah. While in Judaism, like you're told, hey, this is something you should do, and you're supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to say, why am I doing this? What's the point? Why is it meaningful? Do I even need to do this? And like that in and of itself is a sense of worship in the Jewish tradition.
Hopping off. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're so good. It's
Interrupting
exciting.
how Jews talk.
Episode of people interrupt each other.
Okay, but as far as questions, like we are in Passover during Seder. Part of the Seder is the youngest kid there asks the 4 questions, where part of our tradition is literally teaching the youngest person to ask questions, which shows that no matter how old or young you are, your questions are valid.
Semi-unrelated to D&D, I am still the youngest person in my family.
Me too.
I am about to graduate college. I have a full-time job, and I still have to do the 4 questions.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
I did them this week.
Yeah, I did it for a very long time, because also then all my cousins like didn't Jewish educate their kids enough for them to start doing it. So I was doing it forever, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna not do it. You know what I mean?
Here's a fun Jewish thing that I learned this year. I was talking with Rabbi Mike on TikTok, and apparently most rabbis agree that Moses didn't exist.
Oh, that's fun. Like Shakespeare?
Yeah.
Cool.
Like Moses is just a literary figure.
I love that.
That makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense. Like, how could you be lost for 40 years traveling from Egypt to Israel?
God.
Like the title of Moshe is very funny.
That's my favorite thing to do. I don't think my players pick up on it, but I oftentimes say, and like 40 minutes later, or like 40 days later. Because, like, for those listening who aren't unaware, a lot of things in the Torah happen for 40 days and 40 nights or 40 years, which is really just a Jewish way to say like a really long fucking time.
I never noticed that.
I like putting that in just for myself.
No, I love that. That's so funny.
We're allowed to swear on this, right?
Oh, hell yeah. Listen.
Okay.
Listen.
I'm just making sure.
So we're swearing.
So in my current D&D game, the whole premise is that I'm running. The whole premise is that all the players are trapped on an island, and every 40 years there's an apocalypse that kills the majority of the population.
That's so Jewish.
That is so Jewish.
I want to kind of lay the groundwork here. I want to do a Seder. I want to set the order here.
Okay.
I think there's something very important that we need to address.
Okay.
Is that because I don't want to keep saying Christian, because I feel like when I do that, people's hackles get up and be like, but I'm Christian and I'm fine. So what I want to say is that it is the institution of Christianity and how it is intertwined with Western culture as secular. So when we say this, it's the same, right? You say
cultural Christian lens.
Yes, exactly. Not Judeo-Christian. That shit doesn't
No. Name a Jewish value. Name a goddamn Jewish value.
Justice.
There you go.
VJ was
Sedek turned off. Justice, you shall pursue. Yes, VJ.
It's the fact that, like, those two things are the same. So when we say like American means Christian and Christian means American, and or wherever you are, I think this counts in various places. As an American person, that's how I see it. So like when we say all these things, it's like these are the building blocks of like storytelling, right? Or like popular culture storytelling, right? Like I think about why does everything need a Christian episode? Or sorry, a Christmas episode. A Christmas episode. And I think about all the time, do you know Buzz Lightyear of Star Command? The Disney show that was the spin-off of Toy Story? That had a Christmas episode. Buzz Lightyear and Santa were vibing. And
wait, weren't they in space?
They were extremely in space.
With different like with aliens and shit?
Yeah.
Santa upgraded. I don't know what to tell you.
I think what's funny.
You thought Santa was confined to Earth? No.
So the fact Santa in Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. That is think of that analogy. And that, well, you needed to do a Christmas episode because the kids expected a Christmas episode or a winter thing, but then that seeps into the storytelling and that you put Santa into your world of Buzz Lightyear Star Command. It is both the expectation that there is going to be that my Christian experience is the general secular experience, and then as you put that in the fiction then says it back to you, and then it becomes recursive like that. Well, you gotta have a Christmas episode.
Can I ask a question to everyone, just so that I know where we all are? What type of Jewish do you consider yourself? Like I've been Reformed my whole life. I consider myself Reformed now. I'm curious kind of where everyone else here lands.
I'm also Reformed. I very very sort of like Christian teen, actually. I had a weird sort of edgy atheist phase, but then I realized that
don't all Jews. That's Jewish.
Right, but then as I actually learned more about Judaism, I'm like, oh, actually this isn't incompatible, and also these traditions are actually really beneficial to participate in, so like I don't need to actually give up Judaism just because I like the idea of secularism.
Yeah, rock on.
I mean, there are Jewish rabbis who are atheists.
Yeah, you don't have to believe in God to be Jewish at all.
I love that. It's so tight. Let's see. I grew up conservative, but then like my dad's side of the family, who I associated the most with Judaism, became more and more like modern Orthodox. And then I like, unfortunately, the more reform also meant more liberal, so I also like I don't love the like conservative talking lower capital C conservative and lower C, and how those two things are tied together, especially as it applies to Israel and stuff like that. So like, and then my fiance is converting, and she found a really cool Reform synagogue out here in Brooklyn. So I feel like I'm gravitating more towards Reform folks who do that, but I guess I haven't really thought of it like that. Like, I've never been more proud and open about my Jewishness ever, but like I don't remember the last time I went to a synagogue, or like if I don't even have a synagogue affiliation in that way. So it's it's weird like that.
Yeah. What about you, Ben?
I am a non-practicing Reformed Jew who does not believe in God but is willing to fight them in a Denny's parking lot.
I love that. Rock on. So much respect. So just a disclaimer, we are
standard Jew.
We are all like kind of in a similar place, it seems like. So like there are other opinions of like Orthodox Jews who may not agree with what we say here. So just keep that in mind, that we are I think representing a very specific viewpoint of Judaism that may not be what everyone agrees with.
And the points that we may be arguing don't necessarily reflect our own, because that's how Jews interact.
Absolutely.
Right, for sure. You know what's very funny is that, like, so as I said, my fiance is converting, so she's doing like a whole thing. Honestly, I love the Jewish education she's getting. I'm so jealous.
But conversion is so cool. I love it.
Fun. It is.
It's awesome. But so she got like a package that showed like the breakdown of different denominations of Jewishness, and like the modern Orthodox slice is so small, but then I'm like, man, they sure talk so much on Twitter, like they're 50% of Jews. It's wild. So like, you never. It's honestly really interesting. Sometimes the loudest minority is could be something that doesn't really exist as much, and it's just complicated. I just thought that was interesting, and I was really wowed by it. I thought the three of you would also find that interesting. VJ, if you also think that's interesting.
I'm learning so many new things. Yes.
So yeah, I appreciate the Seder, this order setting thing that we're doing here, but I just wanted to say that like maybe when we'll get to just like secular or Christian, whatever we say, it means the same thing.
Yeah.
That he's building in terms of like how ingrained it is in American culture to my eyes. I still can't believe there was a Santa was in space. I thought you would love that.
It's truly wild. Do we maybe want to answer a question?
I would love to.
Oh yeah. We I know I mentioned like, oh, later on we can do questions, but actually that can intersperse at any point. Actually, that doesn't have to be later. So
just point us in a direction and we'll.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Listen, I was more than happy to let y'all freeform. I was like, I'll offer some structure if they want it.
We'll
Otherwise,
take the structure.
How
We'll
about
take the
goblins?
Seder.
Let's talk goblins.
Let's do goblins. Yeah.
okay, goblins, and then get a question in there.
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Okay, cool.
I hate goblins. I absolutely hate
Pop
goblins.
off.
Goblins are one of the two most anti-Semitic creatures in D&D, and them and liches. I'm going off of goblins right now because goblins. So it didn't used to be that way up until Tolkien, and Tolkien didn't really make goblins anti-Semitic as much as codified races in mythology. Like up until Tolkien, there were elves, spirits, sprites. Goblins, gremlins, knockers, pretty much all the same thing. Then Tolkien came about with his fantasy and was like, these are elves, these are dwarves, these are men, these are hobbits, these are blah, 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 blah. But since then, goblins have been used in so many anti-Semitic caricatures. Goblins, the new Harry Potter game is blood libel the game.
It really explicitly is, right?
So bad.
And the thing, and goblins are based off like them being greedy, covetous, hook-nosed creatures that steal your children. That's tropes about Jews. And when I see someone who has Dice Goblin in their name, their profile, I'm like, and I comment, the reason that Dice Goblin's a thing is because goblins are based off of Jews, blah, 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 blah. And the amount of pushback I get, well, I don't mean it like that. Well, doesn't matter what you mean.
Also, how do you mean it then?
Yeah.
Like, why would you be using goblins if you weren't associating them with the stereotypes that are associated with Jewish people in the first place? So, like
you're calling yourself a dice goblin because you hoard a lot of dice, you spend a lot of money on dice, and that's feeding into those stereotypes. Like, acknowledge the harm. Hello?
And
I think the whole Dice Goblin episode is actually how I found Reed on TikTok.
Oh my god,
It's
wait,
like-
really?
Yes.
Yeah, I went off about it because I was like, someone asked me like, is it okay to call myself a dice goblin? And I was like, are you listening to anything we're saying? No, don't do that. Like,
oh my god. And I've talked with many other Jewish creators on TikTok, and a plurality, if not majority, have been called a goblin by white supremacists or neo-Nazis. Like, it's not just that these are based off of tropes, it's the fact that Nazis are using it as a slur as well. And and people are like, well, we're trying to reclaim it. You can't reclaim something that's being used as a slur against someone else. Sorry, I'm heated about this.
No, don't apologize.
Yeah, no, love it. I mean, I don't love it. I'm glad you feel good to express and yeah.
What's really interesting about you saying that about Goblin, because that one is so like at the bottom of my wow, I can't believe this thing is about Jews tier. And I'm like, monster is their thing. Is that I see them in contrast to Tolkien's dwarf, who is truly actually like Jews. Like he said they were Jews. Like I wrote this thing for Alma, which fucking hey Alma's the best. I love episode.
Oh yeah.
About literally the anti-Semitism baked into D&D.
I,
And like,
I don't understand how Tolkien dwarfs are about Jews. They're a race of small, bearded craftsmen living in a diaspora who speak a guttural language. Uh, of it money above all else.
Right. I
and
think. Oh, I'm so sorry. You go,
no,
Eric.
I think it's funny about that the goblin and the dwarf are opposed to each other. That the goblin is the monster version and the dwarf is is like the person version. And like I never made that connection until you just said that. Basic that like those two things are in opposition because like especially as Tolkien was writing The Hobbit and then as it went into Lord of the Rings, World War II happened and like he had to make them more of people as they went through. So like the dwarves in The Hobbit are like really, really fucking stubborn assholes. And then they become nicer, especially Gimli and Gimli's this whole steez. So like it's funny seeing them grow into like the sidekick of elf and man and hobbit to from and then in opposition to the goblin, which I thought was really interesting that you said that. He also explicitly said they were Jews. He said they were Semitic. It was a Semitic. Like he said that in a letter.
About the goblins, though, I'm wondering how much of the association there can we directly attribute, like even before this game came out, directly to J.K. Rowling? Like, what percentage do you think?
That's what I was gonna say. Is that dwarfs are a Tolkien issue and goblins are a Rowling issue? Like that is where a lot of the like the money grubbing like goblin stereotypes come from. Is Harry Potter? I absolutely agree with you, Ezra.
Yeah, and it's just the most prominent piece of media that I could think of. I'm wondering if after Tolkien but before Rowling, anyone knows like anything about that connection particularly.
No, I did a bunch of research on it when it was Jewish Creators Day like 2 years ago on TikTok. I did a bunch of research about like goblins and like where they come from and like anti-Semitic stereotypes in fantasy have like existed for a really, really long time because like, you know, you give a minority any sort of prevalence in anything and people are going to start hating them because that's society. But like goblin specifically can be attributed to Rowling. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's just like I did when I was talking about the article that I was doing. I went on to join the party's part of Multitude Podcast Collective that I run. I'm the head of creative of it, and we had a Harry Potter podcast. It started a while ago. Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore. But I went on that show. I went on it, and I was like, oh well, I wanted to do some more a deep dive onto this, similar of what you were saying, diving into where did this come from? What did Rowling write? Because I was agreeing. I'm like, where did this come from? It's wild how it's just in the text. Like goblins can only half do magic. They only run Gringotts. Like they're always like a second class citizen. It's like goblins are like. If we took, because you know she's so incredibly like UK, it's so British of her, is like there is like some Irish stuff thrown in there in terms of the rebellion, but like using the Irish as the framework for this just like Jewish stereotype. Hell, like the Goblin Rebellion, the thing that they're also touching on in the game that's coming up has been in the text of Harry Potter. You know, like that's part of her world building is like, oh yeah, the wizards and the goblins went to war because the goblins were too like said too much, asked for too much, and like then they got to be put down, and then consistently stuff like that.
Also, like, not to get on my anti-Harry Potter soapbox, but like,
no, be on that soapbox. This is
okay. So get on my anti-Harry Potter soapbox.
This is an anti-Harry Potter space, and yeah, so please keep going.
Isn't the plot of the new movie like the bad guys want to stop the Holocaust from happening, and the good guys are like, no, it has to happen. We can't interfere. Like. Literally, what? I don't understand how people can still like support that franchise. I just don't.
No. Yeah, that is the plot. Did you not know that, VJ?
I have. No. No, I did not. I knew what was going on with the game because I was like, y'all can't play this once she's transphobic, and then it was like, oh, and it's anti-Semitic. You can't fucking play this. Stop it. But then as far as the movies go, besides saying like, don't go see these fucking movies, like, please stop giving her money. I was like, I don't know what's happening in any of these movies anymore. I know that maybe Dumbledore is explicitly gay now, and there were some magic animals in the first one, explicitly gay now. But that's it. That's all I know about it. And I'm like, that's the.
VJ, I'm with you. I also have been tuned out that I did not know that was the plot. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like we can't interfere with like Muggle affairs, but like the Muggle affairs is World War II. It's like if I was gonna write escapist media and I wanted to set it in that time period, like maybe the Holocaust wouldn't have happened. I don't know about you guys.
I was literally just about to be like, did you have to have that happen? This is an alternate. This is not a real world. It didn't have to happen.
Here's a fun question I have, just
Let's-
maybe
go
because
for
I think you're like, yeah, fuck goblins. Like it's there. Here's a question: how do y'all deal with putting like Nazi type figures in your game?
I don't.
Great question.
Yeah, me too. I don't.
I do. Because there's a very big difference between how Goy approach Nazis and how Jews approach Nazis. And I am very much of the Mel Brooks approach to Nazis, where they are ridiculous, incompetent, utter fools.
So true.
I feel like I'm trying to figure that out between the two. Is that I want to do that, and I said when someone asked me like what my lines and veils were for a game I was going to be on, it was like, listen, if you want to put xenophobia and stuff as your themes, what the general and any that say xenophobia for any of this stuff, like you better let me kill them at some point. You better let me destroy them at some point. But like if you don't, I'm going to be very upset that you made me do this.
Have you seen Jojo Rabbit, Eric?
No, but like I kind of know.
Okay, so there's a scene where Hitler is asking a little boy at the end, where Hitler's been just like through the ringer, can I get a hell me? And the little boy goes, fuck off, Hitler, and just uppercuts him through a window. And like, you gotta treat Nazis like that in your media that you make.
Well, I think that it boils down to what you were talking about, Eric, about you don't like putting black and white evil people in your games, and like I don't like doing that either, but I don't want to put a villain that is Nazi-esque because like I don't ever want there to ever be like like maybe they're morally gray, and so I just like I don't mess with it because that's not the type of evil that I like to put in my games. And I think that at least for me and my players, it's more interesting to deal with more of like the moral quandaries as opposed to like, you know, racism.
Yeah. No, see that's what I'm wrestling with is like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. Like if someone is going to make me do it, at least let me kill them. If I'm going to be their if I'm going to play as me running my game, I'm like, I don't know if I actually want to do this. There are so many more.
It's just
things.
been done. It's been done. I don't need to do it again.
Why do we have to wrestle? Why do I need to make up like a fantasy slur for you? You know what I mean?
Not the fantasy slurs.
Like, why do I have to do that? Like, I touched on it a little bit in the game that we were running in Enjoy the Party. In the second campaign, we were doing like a modern superhero thing. I reskinned like all this stuff to fit superhero stuff. I like powered folk, and we created a metropolis in upstate New York that didn't exist, but it bloomed because they discovered this energy source, which was really fun. It also turned people into superheroes. And I had this like anti-super sentiment, kind of something that they've touched on in superheroes, superhero comics, and of course like in X-Men all the way from the one on Amazon that's really bloody, The Boys, like things through there. And I touched on it because I was also like, you know, that they exist, like those are Republicans, you know, like those people are real and they would exist in a real city. But then like I pulled back on it because I'm like, I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. Like I can have them as like an amorphous blob for a little bit, or like as a quote unquote political faction. But I'm not gonna I don't want to like play that out And like, I felt weird about it, even if it was it would be satisfying eventually to uppercut them through a window. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to put anyone through it. But like, I see what y'all are all saying, and I've been wrestling with it and thinking about it, both as running it as a DM and running it as being a part of it as a player.
Ezra, did you have anything you wanted to add? Anybody else while we talk about goblins and this part in? Wait, nope. Did you have anything to add to this particular section of the conversation about adding or playing with Nazi-esque people in games?
I guess most of the games I've been in haven't seemed like they just wanted to tackle the issues of like genocide or like most of my players that I've played with just like don't want to deal with that. So I haven't even put that much thought into it, and I would be really hesitant to do it because I don't know if I could do it properly in the satirical way. I'm not the best improv, like pure improv, just like make this character ridiculous kind of thing. So I just don't know if I could pull that off, and like, I just don't know if I'm a good enough storyteller to handle that the best.
Mm-hmm. I 100% respect that, and I feel similarly. I'm like, do I really want to do? Like, I don't know if I want to do it. So I'm glad all of you have such differing opinions for me to continue to wrestle with it.
We're Jews. Did you think we would give you a straight answer?
I was hoping to give me 4 opinions from the 3 of you.
And Ezra, I just kind of want to highlight that's like really something I love when people can say, I don't think I can pull this off as a storyteller, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I personally say that about adding racism to games. Like, I'm fallible, so I've done it before and then had to like remove it and talk to the player I did it with, so we didn't have that problem again. But I'm like, I don't put racism in my games on purpose because as much as I like to educate about it, I don't think I'm the storyteller to tell that kind of story in a lot of different settings. So I think that's commendable to be able to say that and be like honest with yourself about it.
Yeah, and it's just like you either need to have like such a strong level of knowledge and be able to confidently detach yourself so much to be able to pull that off, or you sort of need experience having done it, which like, yeah.
Something on the goblins. It's amazing how much pushback we get on the dice goblin thing.
That's like, I have not seen that. I don't know if that's like something y'all are seeing on TikTok.
It's like a Gen Z thing, I think. Sorry.
And
I made one video about it, and it was just like after 2 hours, it was just absolutely flooded with Nazis and like replies yelling at me like, "You think that's oppression? Shut the fuck up!" It's like, okay.
Well, it's like there's also like canonically other creatures that hoard things like dragons, and then also
or Zorn.
Dice dragon is alliteration, and it sounds so much better. Like
specifically my friends call me like a dragon because I like to hoard fucking tabletop role-playing books and games. Like I like the amount of Kickstarters I've just like the amount of shit I just have. I need like one of those giant like really nice shelves to put on there. There is so much shit that's just like, and the PDFs like if I was a dragon, it would be TTRPG shit. And I'm like, why can't you just say dragons? They hoard things and they don't have that same like.
I wonder. Sorry, you go.
No, you go ahead.
I feel like this is actually a very interesting segue into Lich, but I don't want to go away from Goblin if you still have things to say.
I also want to address Goblin Core.
Sure.
Like the fact that that's a thing when it's. I don't want to get into this tangent right now. I will be too angry for the rest of the podcast.
Hit Ben up if you want to listen to their rant about Goblin Core, because it's good.
I love that.
It is almost as good as my rant about, what is it? The Purge franchise. It is one of my 3 favorite things to rant about.
Wait, what's the third? Goblin Core, the Purge franchise, and...
Head Cruise. I have a Twitter that's called I Don't Like Ted Cruz, where all I do is insult Ted Cruz.
Oh my gosh, that's so Jewish.
All of that. That's real good. I would love to take this opportunity to segue into Lich, because you touched on the thing that I think is really interesting. Is like, you didn't have to do this. There are plenty of other things that do this, and we choose to stick with Goblin, right? Other things Horde, we choose Goblin, right? The thing about the Lich, right, is that Gary Gygax was like, "Yo, dog, hey, hey, man, I found this cool word that means dead stuff. What if I turn that also meant like dead sorcerer, right?" I was like, "All right, you're making a new monster, Gary. Neato." But what is like, no, but here's the thing, right? Is that it's gonna keep its soul somewhere else. I was like, "All right, Gary, that sounds neat." He's like, "But it's gonna be put in a box, and that box looks, you're going to use this word phylactery, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, that word means something, Gary." And he's like, no, here's the thing, is that it's a box that has words in it that also has a soul that looks like this thing I might have seen at some point, but no, I don't know what it is.
It's got leather straps. You can put it on your arm or your forehead.
Okay, allow me to quote the monster manual. With its phylactery prepared, the future Lich drinks a potion of transformation. A vile concoction of poison mixed with the blood of a sentient creature whose soul is sacrificed to the phylactery. Blood libel, anyone?
It's wild. I also have never heard anyone use the word phylactery without like call like a Christian person like looking at something and calling it like Judaica, or like looking you're like, what is this? Oh, look at these tchotchkes, this phylactery that I found.
Oh, it's like the same energy of people taking a chamsa and like putting it on a bunch of different clothing. It's but like my thing about phylacteries is that like people don't even use them in that like way anymore. Like people have created like other like necromantic focuses or like soul jars for liches, and like, you know, in the same way that we reclaimed so much of D&D from the terribleness that was Gary Gygax saying that female characters can't have a certain strength and like, you know, all that. I think that the progress that's being made on it is exciting, but it gets hard to celebrate and be excited about the game and to bring new players in the game without acknowledging where it comes from and where it started.
You're touching on the thing that is the segue, which is like Lich can be like Death Lord or Death or Necromancer, someone whose whole thing is like either fighting death or harnessing it. Like the way my Lich that I think in my head is the Adventure Time Lich, right?
Yes!
Embodiment of death is how I think of Lich. Great, that's what Lich means. Lich. He just doesn't need a phylactery. He doesn't need a box that keeps soul and blood in it. And like, if you want to make a change, just do that. I'm not asking you to do all that much. Just like, can you switch it up a little bit and make it mean something else and actually lean into it and publish it and put it in the book you're making money on? Can you just make that change? So if people are going to not use their brain and just read what's in the book, they don't think that is what Lich means. When we are using it in so many different places, like just take the phylactery out, like make it use a soul jar, you make it even a Horcrux. I fucking guess. I don't know. I don't give a shit. Just don't make it a box that involves blood and soul. Like, come on.
And I mean, make it not distinctly, irrefutably Jewish.
Please tell me what about that?
Maybe leave the process for becoming a Lich a bit more ambiguous and not to explicitly involve blood libel.
I mean, a phylactery, I pulled up the definition. A small leather box containing Hebrew text on vellum worn by Jewish men at morning prayer. There's no other definition. There's no other culture that uses phylactery. So you're having what I just said about blood libel. A creature that commits blood libel to gain powers, like liches are Jews.
Yeah,
liches aren't coded; they're explicit Jews.
Yeah, especially the fact that Gary made it up. That's the thing. Is like, if we want to have a whole conversation that like Tolkien, the things that Tolkien made are the foundations of fantasy and blah blah blah. Okay, fine. If you want to use the tradition argument, I'm not going to spend so much time trying to fight you and say that the thing that you find to be most precious in the entire world is bad. I'm not going to do it. But like, some dude in 1976 just made this up. Like he put it in a book that he was using to sell as he was inventing a game. Like, why? What is wrong? Can we change that? It's
Do
not.
your research. Like,
It's just not sacred. He just made it up, and like
yeah.
he has all of his shit. Like he was really into researching Christianity and did a religious study and things. So like, I don't trust where he's coming from.
Yeah.
If you take him as like a man who made a thing in a game.
And it's like, it's the same energy to me as like people who, to like name a god, will like put a word into Google Translate and then just like take the word that comes out and like call their god that. It's like, you can't just take things from other cultures and make them yours. Like that's just like that's not how it works. That's the definition of cultural appropriation. Like,
But it's not that deep. It's not that deep. Oh my god, I hate those people.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
rough.
TikTok sounds bad. I'm sorry. I guess Twitter's bad too, but like, man, shit.
Yeah. It's rough.
Yeah, I respect all of you out there in the TikTok mind, believe me.
Listen, I mean, I've gotten more anti-Semitism on Twitter than I have on TikTok, though. But that's only because one time David Duke quote tweeted me.
Oh no!
So that was fun. Yeah.
Dang, I didn't know he had a Twitter.
I didn't either. I was also a senior in high school at the time, and I was like, David Duke, you are a 60-year-old man, and you are embarrassed and threatened by an 18-year-old Jewish non-binary person? Interesting. Yeah.
You just have such a threatening aura around you.
Apparently.
Listen, I'm your friend because I'm afraid to not be your friend. The aura keeps me here.
You're like an Oathbreaker paladin with your aura of hate.
Thank you, thank you. I hope that it keeps repelling Nazis. My God.
I feel like we could just go through all of the things, and VJ, I'm not trying. I don't want to blow up the wonderful document you made, but it's like I feel like we can go through each one of these things and just be like, yeah, fuck that. Why are you doing that? And like, it's hard. I don't know what to do next. I don't know how much more yelling we have to do. Be like, stop doing this. That we can start like make some moves forward to like do some building blocks stuff. Like, what can we do? What can we do that like we don't have the church in the next big Dungeons and Dragons media thing? Like, how do we break that? Like, how do we get someone from the jump to like put a golem in an interesting way, right? Or like it's not just a construct. Like, where do we? I don't know, like, where do we get different types of dwarves? Like, I don't know what the next step. I struggle so hard of what the next step is. And like, we're all making shit. If the only thing we can do is make stuff until like the Christian hegemony is like, all right, Jews, you can do this. Like, I don't know. That's what I'm struggling. That's what I feel like I'm really struggling with.
Yeah.
Because you said that the point that was like anti-Semitism in D&D or tabletop RPGs. And the thing that I'm struggling with, I'm like, is someone taking this seriously?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that I don't want to say to anyone, whatever, like disenfranchised group you are part of. Everyone has that conversation of like, are people going to take us seriously finally? I'm also we're not doing an Olympics of who has it the worst. I extremely don't mean that. But it's like, when are we just gonna yell and stamp our feet and then they're gonna be like, all right, fine, and then put out more shit? Yeah. Like, I struggle with what happens next and how do we like. I'm never gonna be able to explain this stuff to some folks, right? Like the thing that they love the most, or the thing that they're doing in terms of like interrogating the ways that they see storytelling, like the building blocks of storytelling. I don't know how I can get that person to change, or if someone will be put into a position where they can say something that is elevated to a high amount. Because I think I think there's a lot of model minority stuff happening with Jews, which is tough. Where it's like, well, you're in there and you're accepted, and so you're fine, right? And like, it's a struggle, and I don't know how to address that sometimes, or ask that question. of like, so what do we do next? I'm just gonna keep doing my shit, but like I wish that there was some sort of like acknowledgement, or like are we just gonna like keep getting not like telling Nazis to stop beating down, or it's just like gonna continue to do the thing that's
I know you're not on TikTok, Eric. We'll get you on TikTok. We will. But there's been a debate over and over and over again about whether white people can play PCs of color.
Sure.
And no matter how many times an answer from the POC community is given, people still bring it up like every couple months. And it's like they're being told, hey, don't do this. And then people are like, but I want to. And then 3 months later, they're called out for it. And they're like, but I didn't know. And it keeps happening. It keeps happening, and it's going to keep happening with everything. And it sucks. But I do think that what we can do is we can have these conversations and provide as many people alternatives as possible, because like even if we can't get like the greater TTRPG community to stop doing racist and anti-Semitic shit in their games, like if one person listening to this thinks, hey, like maybe I'm doing something problematic in my games and maybe I need to reconsider, like, not to be Jewish, but we've done our job, you know, like tikkun olam. It's not our job to finish the work, but that doesn't absolve us from like doing it at all. And so I think that, you know, any little bit and piece that we can educate people on is better than nothing.
No, you're right. I agree. I definitely agree with that. And all you can do is the thing you can do, and then hopefully something changes. It just like, I don't know. I was looking at the list of that stuff, and like I will go off on golems at some point. Believe me, I'm ready. I'm fucking ready. I'm locked and loaded on that. So like I just wanted to. I was just kind of. I think about that just a lot.
No, I understand. It's also definitely the intersection of like how Judaism fits as a marginalized identity is really interesting, right? Because it's, unless you're like a Nazi and you're making assumptions, like you can't tell that someone's Jewish by looking at them, right? Like it's not something that you can see on my skin. It's not like I don't have a big tattoo on my forehead that's like, hi, my name's Reed, I'm Jewish, right? And so I think that would be a good fit, right? Just right here. Okay. But like it's still, you know, something that is hard to be publicly, right? Like there are definitely some instances where like I don't wear a Jewish star necklace when I would like to, or there are some instances where people are talking about religion and I don't feel safe or comfortable to include myself in the conversation. But like it feels kind of like a bit of an imposter syndrome when talking in marginalized communities, because it's such like a hidden aspect of my identity, and like how privileged are we to be able to hide it, even though that's so shitty. But like what a privilege it is to be able to keep ourselves safe when we want to be. And that's something that I struggle with a lot, especially in like the TTRPG community, when there are some people who don't have the luxury of just getting to shut up sometimes.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
I do want to say, specifically the you're not obligated to complete the work, but you can't abandon it either. I have that, like, when I was younger, I used to have like this big book of fucking like quotes that I like, because I before I got into game design, I was like, I'm gonna be an author. I'm gonna write fantasy. It's gonna be great. That is a dream in a box right now next to my bedstand. It'll happen. But
I love that.
that was that, like, when I was, I didn't hear or know of that quote until I got into college and was like, I still want to write, but I want to do more things that are helping like my community as a Black queer person. And it was like figuring out how to write about things that I had a direct connection to, that were traumatizing to work through, but was like, I cannot stop doing the work. I don't have to be the one that finishes, but I can't stop doing it. And I'm like, it is disheartening, but it's also very I don't know. I felt something when Reed said it. I was like a connection between marginalized communities, kind of thing. Since my use of it was in a completely different context. It was like a Black queer person.
Yeah.
I know. I very much agree with what you're saying about that, VJ. And I also like, I'm realizing I'm stopping myself from like fuck, it sucks that I'm now looking at that like I need approval from the successful things out there to be like, all right, well now Jews can speak or stuff like that. Because like I also wanted to feel like I was doing that for all of the people who have to deal with this in the tabletop RPG communities. When like whoever gets hired by Wizards of the Coast or gets put on a big show for whatever diversity thing it is that they're trying to showcase at this moment. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Look at the look at the glass ceiling, look at the glass floor that they're putting them on. And just because they want this big thing, and I am annoyed at myself that I was like, I want that kind of approval when I also know how precarious and how ridiculous it is when other folks are being put into that situation. And yeah, I definitely want to continue to do the work. It's just like felt. I also just wanted to make sure that we took an opportunity to just be like, this is the cool shit we're doing right now, and how what we're pushing on, and things that can be continue to grow, and the things that are when we started the conversation by talking about it, like how Jewishly we were all DMing, that made me feel really good, and I just want to do more of that stuff, and also focusing on like the growth and the construction that can happen without needing the approval of like big stuff, because I feel that way, and we have all the, like you said, minority support when that happens to them, and I want to feel that way for us and everybody, because people are getting fucked over and put into real hard positions.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could be on both a glass cliff and a glass ceiling at the same time.
It's
D&D media made it happen, huh?
teetering right now. It's fun.
It's like it's a trap. One coming to a glass ceiling coming down on you, and then the floor is coming out below you. It's all glass. Wow.
Can we talk about for a second how many people just respond when we are explaining the anti-Semitism? Well, I don't see it that way. Maybe it's a you problem.
Jesus.
VJ, I'm sure, gets that all the time when they explain racism.
Whenever that happens, I'm like, I get so frustrated with people because like, I understand being defensive and not wanting to admit you don't know something, but then at the same time, I don't understand that because, yeah, sure, I was like that a little bit when I was younger, but I also was more towards the line of like, okay, well then just tell me. If I don't know, I don't know, and I'm fine to learn it. Or like that phrase that is like I saw something on Twitter that was like, it's okay to just say, I don't know enough about this topic to have a conversation about it. And there's nothing bad about that because no one knows every single fucking thing in the universe. Nobody, not even God. Like,
That's so Jewish of you.
Especially not God.
I'm gonna keep making that joke.
And he tapped out. I fucking owned it. It was sick.
And it's just I don't understand, because if I was in the reverse position and somebody was explaining this to me, I wouldn't say, well, maybe that's just a you problem if it was something that like doesn't affect me at all, because like even if maybe it is like a you as in Jewish people's problem, which would clue into me like I should shut up and listen because it's not a me problem because I'm not Jewish. If I was Jewish, then I would understand. It's like if I break a bone and I'm or it's like I'm disabled, I've got like a whole walking issues and stuff, and if I tell people like if we go do something and I'm like, hey, I can't walk that far, can we like the person's not going to sit there and tell me, well, that's just a you problem, like I'm gonna keep walking, like the people that I'm with, unless they're assholes and I'm not friends with assholes, they'll be like, okay, yeah, let's take a break, like tell me what you need, like what's going on with you, like if it's not affecting you and it's a problem with another person, like the standard response is, oh, okay, well, what's going on? How can I help? What's the problem? Kind of thing. For people in your life. So I'm like, I don't understand how like that comes out of their mouth and not realizing that not only is it shitty, but also, it's a other group problem because it affects them, kind of thing.
It's just so easy to say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Here's the thing that I did to hurt you, and here's what I'm going to do to make up for it. It's like a 3-step process. And people just really get stuck on every single step of the process.
They need to put some money in the tzedakah box, and maybe they'll be able to figure it out.
Hey,
Wait.
that's Jewish.
What is that?
The steps of forgiveness in Judaism is like I can't remember all. There's 3, and one is like apologizing, one is like doing an action, and then one is tzedakah, which is like putting the charity. So it's like all by doing all those 3 things together, that is apologize. That is truly apologizing. Did I get that right?
Regret, confession, and then committing to not do it again.
And you can put money in the thing.
Yeah, you can give us money too.
It's like
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Do you give the money to the person you harmed, or are you giving it to like a general charity kind of thing, or both, or either or?
More the general charity thing. Like there is a charity box in your synagogue, and you can put it in there. It looks nicer than a UNICEF box, but you can imagine. Like,
But it's pretty much. Did you guys ever have to do like the fundraising for JNF and like the big blue box?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad that's a universal Jewish experience.
For your so did you get the Jewish Book of Why?
I didn't.
Oh, I've heard of that. I didn't have that one.
My bat mitzvah. What a time. It was before I came out, but it was rainbow themed. So I don't think I was doing a very good job of hiding it.
That's very funny. I like that your theme was queer.
Literally, every single not to like talk about how cool my bat mitzvah was, but I'm gonna keep talking about it. Every single table had like a different color theme, and for each table we donated to a different organization that like we associated with that color. We donated $36. How Jewish. Instead of a cake, we had rainbow cupcakes, and each of the frosting colors was a different flavor. Like, it was so gay. And then 2 years later, I was like, hey, I'm non-binary. And my parents were like, what? And I was like, how did you not know this?
That's
funny.
Do we want to answer one of these questions?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one in particular that I really like, and also if I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look over them. If I ask a question and anybody's uncomfortable with it, we'll just stop it there. So if you ask the question, it doesn't get answered because of that. Yeah, the safetyness of my guests come first. But so I'm a big fan of Eberron, and so I was kind of really excited about this question. So first off, okay, let me just read it, and then Eberron's pulp roots often delve into tropes about shadowy conspiracies, which IRL are often deeply rooted in anti-Semitism. Groups like the Aurum, a shadowy conspiracy started by dwarves, manipulate from behind the scenes using their money and connections. How can a DM handle these shadowy conspiracy tropes without stepping into anti-Semitism? And then I've got like this is actually kind of long. I'll read like a little bit of this to talk about the Aurum a little bit more for anybody that's not familiar with Eberron or is familiar with Eberron but didn't know it, because I didn't know it and I love Eberron. The Aurum is a secretive social club containing many of the wealthiest citizens of Corvair with an interest in history and artifacts of the past. The Aurum started as a fraternity of wealth and powerful dwarves from the Moor Holds, which is a location in Eberron, which I think is like either primarily or exclusively dwarves. When the kingdom of Galifar collapsed and the new dwarfs suddenly had a nation of their own, the members of this collective began to look beyond the iron roots and mountains. And let's see. Another little chunk at the end is some believe there is a secret conspiracy within the Aurum that operates separately from the Concords. This shadow cabinet is believed to have plans to rule the continent of Corvair.
Are they also lizards?
No.
Here's a new thing. I'm really leaning into that one, is that the reason why Jews love Ultimate Frisbee so much is that it actually matches onto our like deep lizard brain, our secret lizards. How like it was a ritual that like of jumping and grabbing things as lizard people. I'm using that one. You guys can have that one.
I was like, where are you going with this? I was like, how did Frisbee get into this? Oh my god.
Jews, lizard people. Also, we all played Ultimate Frisbee in college. I'm sure we did. So that's Ultimate Frisbee.
God, bold of you to assume I played a single sport in college.
Jam band music also fit in with that.
There you go.
Those did it spoke to our lizard people brains. It's funny. I mean, like, I was a high school English teacher back in the day, so let's do some close reading, right? Is that it's not, though, that it's a shadowy organization. It's that dwarves, which is Jewish coded, plus the fact that it's exclusionary, like as it is, taking over the world, as leading into that particular conspiracy, which of like controlling everything, being a seat of power, and then like dwarves and yeah, so like those more specifically. Let's think about other times there are like shadowy organizations. It's usually just folks in power, which are usually not Jews. It's usually the various embodiments of capitalism that we all see in our which is the recent trend that all enemies are embodiments of capitalism.
I'm going to disagree with you about the Orums, because the Orums are just an example of it. There are several groups like this. Some of them are homogenous, some of them are not, and this just happens to be one of them. So it is not the only one. It's just one that fits the additional criteria. And having a shadow organization in itself is not anti-Semitic, because it's a common enough trope.
Right. That's what I was trying to hit on. Is that like think about the Court of Owls in Batman? Like it's just a bunch of rich fucking people, and it's usually and then that's not explicitly Jewish.
Yeah, but Batman's Jewish.
He is.
Yes. Batwoman is Jewish, and they are cousins. And Batman's mother is her blood aunt. Therefore, Batman is a matrilineal Jew.
That's a good one. I did not know that one. Thank you. I love that. I knew that Superman was Jewish, but I didn't know that Batman was. But Superman's just Moses when you think.
Yeah.
So like
Who doesn't exist. We already established that.
The fabrication of a bunch of Jews. Like I said, he's Moses.
Touché.
The thing about this kind of conspiracy that always gets to me, I'm going to be honest, I'm not super familiar with Eberron. I don't know that much about the Aurum. But the thing that this kind of conspiracy that gets to me is like, you're so close to just describing capitalism. Why'd you have to make it like a lizard Jew thing? Like what was so bad? Like what hoodwinked you so badly into making you think that Jews controlled the world? Like, seriously? Really? Okay.
Yeah, you're so so if you want to have a shadowy organization in your game, hey kid. Like, if you want to have a shadow organization in your game, just make them Titans of Industry, the regular thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You have to just stay away from media, stay away from banks, and then it's not anti-Semitic. Like, you're fine.
Yeah.
It's there were those details in there that it was like they're dwarves and they don't talk to other people and they keep kosher. It's like that's the shit, man. that makes it align with lizard people. It's like you can or
shapeshifters.
Say it again.
Or shapeshifters.
Right, or shapeshifters. Like it's the details. The devil is truly in the details about the things that you're doing, where you can just move back from it. That's what I'm thinking about. That's why you think about Lich. Is like Lich and Dwarf and Goblin and Golem, for that matter. Is like when you look at the details, is like either make something explicitly Jewish or don't. Golem should be explicitly Jewish and they should be like this. But if you want it to be not anti-Semitic, just take the thing out that does the thing. Like, make your monsters not hoard gold and have big old noses and control the media. Like, just don't do that. And of course, and like you can say that for all the other things. Like, don't have your monsters have dark skin, or green or whatever. Or the thing is like they're all we're asking for very specific things here. It's not like throw out everything that you love because we're gonna ruin your shit. Just take out the things that are bad.
You know, with Nazis using goblin as a slur, I don't think we can remove all the anti-Semitic elements because of the real-world implications from it.
Oh, sure. Yes, I am the least versed on the goblin one because no one is calling me a goblin on Twitter. It seems to be happening a lot on TikTok. So I'm 100. If you say that, I agree.
Well, other than that, I agree with you. As long as there's no real-world implications of things such as the word being used as a slur.
So I have a question about like the banking and whatnot. So, and just to,
VJ? Do you need to open a savings account because this is not the right thing?
Actually,
no, I can help you
you
with that.
have a series
Just give me your social security.
So we can't
number.
open a savings account.
Don't worry,
And
my aunt and my uncle and 3 of my cousins are CPAs. They can help you out.
No. And no to my social security number, Reed. Well, actually, you know what? I trust you. 0. But no, so like, so the first episode of this podcast was anything but racism, where I was talking about like, how to potentially add things like imperialism and colonialism as big bads without having to play into like, without having to engage in like, without having to also have the trappings of racism in them. And then there are lots of different types of imperialism and colonialism, which I didn't know at the start before I started researching for it. And there are some imperialism and colonialism that you definitely can't pull away from racism, regardless of like what you say or what you do, because it's like intrinsic into it. And I mean, like, it can be done in a fantasy setting because it doesn't have to be coupled to our real world. In our real world, like, there's really no pulling imperialism and colonialism away from racism because of like how, you know, white supremacy is set up. But one of the things that I wanted to give an example of different types of imperialism, so like settler or different types of colonialism, so like settler colonialism, political colonialism, and then there was economic colonialism, and that one in particular was going to be set in Eberron with a dragon-marked house that there is a dragon-marked house that is in charge of the banks. I don't think they're dwarves. I think they're halflings. I think.
Live fact checking.
Yes, live fact checking. Dragon House Bank, Eberron. I think. I'm pretty sure they're halflings. Actually, nope. They.
Don't tell me they're dwarves.
Oh.
VJ.
Oh, they're
Are
dwarves. They're dwarves.
No!
They're dwarves. I could have swore they were halflings. Oh no.
Hobbits don't know how to do math. They wouldn't control the banks. Come on.
Oh my god.
They're just sweet country folk.
That is okay. Mike, when I was sure they were halflings, I was like, they're halflings. They're totally halflings. When I was thinking they were halflings, I was like, oh, since I was like, they could be doing like a thing where they're like, there's a new head of the house and they're hiring adventurers and powerful people, and like they're hiring mercenaries to cause economic disasters in different parts of the world so that the leaders have to like do whatever. Not what's going to be happening now because, oh, they're dwarves, so there's that. But the question I was going to ask when I thought they weren't dwarves, is there a way to like do that kind of story where you've got like a monoracial group of people? So let's say they weren't goblins or dwarves, they were halflings or something, and they were going to be like, we're going to engage in some economic colonialism and the way and doing that by sabotaging this area. Like, is there any way to tell those kinds of stories without like, is there any way to separate things out of that?
I think that the issue you run into is the monoracial part, right? Like, I think that I would feel much more comfortable with it if it was like a cultural thing, or like a group of people who live in a town together, or like, we want to take over this city, right? But like when it gets into a group of like monoracial individuals, I feel like that's when it veers too close into like those anti-Semitic dog whistles.
100%. I agree with you. It's the great way to do this is make it a dragon. What if a single entity was doing this? Because then it becomes like the power of the few controls the many, and that,
or like 3 rich people, like
Yeah.
an elf, halfling, and I don't know. I'm trying to
Ooh,
think
I
of
know.
another race.
a dwarf, a changeling, and a goblin.
Okay, maybe not that.
that's the opposite one. Yeah, an oligarchy of some sort. Like, what is something that's happening that doesn't touch on that? Because I mean, we run into this issue all the time in fantasy, that singular races of monsters or people or whatever have specific qualities. Bad. I know that in Tasha's cauldron of all that shit they threw in there, they said that you can do whatever at your table and it's fine. but it doesn't mean that it's not in the books, or both the fantasy books and the D&D books, that like races mean that like there's a racial essentialism, and like that can tap into all the different things for whatever we're talking about, but like specifically you don't want a single race controlling the banks. That's the issue.
Yeah.
I did really like how I thought the dragon parallel was really interesting, because it did, again, when we're talking about hoarding, isn't it so much more interesting that a powerful creature has the ability to hoard a singular thing, that it has grip on a specific thing that it loves to hoard? Like, I find that so much more interesting. If you want to have a conversation about colonialism, economic colonialism, a dragon threatens everyone because it can kill you, which is very similar to all different types of power.
I also love non-traditional like interpretations of dragon hoards, like when dragons hoard things that are not necessarily material, but like a dragon who hoards power, or like a dragon who hoards information, right? Like the amount of control that can give you is immense and like expansive, and there are ways to do it without like venturing even close to like, I like money. Like you can stay away from that Mr. Krabs bullshit, you know?
I'm curious about this. On the monoracial thing, I realize that it sort of does play into anti-Semitic tropes to make the dominant power, if it is like the monoracial economic colonialism thing. I'm wondering if making it clearly like, because obviously Jews haven't really been like the centers of power throughout the vast majority of history. Do you think having it like clearly like a race that isn't associated with Jews, and also like a majority like power like racial group, do you think that would alleviate that at all, or do you think it would just go back into the anti-Semitic tropes?
I think your options are like elves at that point, because so many D&D races are rooted in like racism and anti-Semitism. Like you got elves and you got humans, and that's kind of it. But like I do love the idea of like, you know, elves who in a society of people who live for a very short amount of time are able to like build up this like this power and this control and this influence. And like I feel like that's a really interesting angle to take it that's not anti-Semitic at all, if you wanted to do like, you know, an elvish family or like elvish friends, right?
Also the whole elves only sleeping 4 hours a night thing, that also gives them an advantage.
Right, like that could be an interesting way to take this type of bad guy that's not rooted in anti-Semitism, because they have a motivation that's like built in, right? Of like, we live for so long, like there's got to be a reason. I just think that that's a more interesting way to go with it.
What I love about that too is that it has parallels to things that we see now, that like folks that don't have like both either generational or like current trauma from like being alive when you are people feel a type of way about you live less, right? Like the people who don't have that live longer. And isn't that what a wonderful parallel for having like a cushy, chill, everything's going my way life, any of the other things that you have that anyone else dealing with like a subjugation? I find that's a really interesting parallel.
You can also get a nice allegory for generational wealth too.
Yes, exactly, because you lived generations.
Correct.
Oh, that's really cool.
Feel free to take the idea, put it in your game. You're welcome.
Yeah, I am. Listen, I wish I could show you. Oh, actually, I'm just gonna.
Narrating for our audio listeners, VJ just showed us a bunch of post-it notes on their computer with ideas.
This is how I collect my things.
Now you're a horde of D&D campaign ideas.
Yes, my horde, my dragon horde. A red dragon specifically. Don't know why. Just take
I love it.
Fire breath. It's a classic. Speaking of Eberron, do we want to talk about Warforged at all? I think that we can talk about like what the fuck is a construct, why is every construct not a golem, and what is a robot in terms of fantasy terms.
Okay.
I am so excited you said that. Can I? Okay. Would it be okay? So questions for y'all. Would it be helpful to list out the different types of golems in 5e? and okay to mention some of the questions people have asked us around this. So like, hey, these were also asked, and we can like kind of roll up and talk
Wrap
about
it all up. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
Okay, I want to start out though with the golem discussion on the flesh golem.
Oh God.
Can we get the list read out
Yeah,
first,
let's-
and then we can
Yes.
start there?
yes,
Cool.
okay, so okay, y'all, I was super excited to do this, got all the questions together, and didn't think about, oh, I should get a list of the golems so like we know what they are. But let's go through them real quick, since it's easy to find them on Cobalt Fight Club Plus or whatever. Okay.
I have them put up already on D&D Beyond.
I think I also know them off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Okay, in alphabetical order: the canopic golem, the clay golem, the crystal golem, the dragon bone golem, the fiendish flesh golem, the flesh golem, the glasswork golem, the hammer-handed one, the headless iron golem, an iron golem, a lightning golem, a mad one, a snow golem, and a stone golem.
Where are some of those from?
Hold up, right? Okay, so the Dragon Bone Golem is from
This
Fizz bands.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they won't stop making more golems.
That's new. I didn't even know about that one. Fuck.
Nope. Yeah. And then some of the questions we had about Warforged and golems, and then kick off the conversation talking about flesh golems.
Okay, so flesh golems are an abomination to classic Jewish folklore.
Ben, can I list off the questions we had and then we
Yes.
jump into that? Thank you. Okay, so one question we had: would you consider Warforged to be a form of golem? Can Jewish themes be derived from this or other character options? Let's see. And we have one more at the top. Wait, actually, that might be the only one. Hold on a second.
There's one at the bottom.
Oh wait, yeah. Then the second one: how do you deal with enemies based in their lore off of anti-Semitism? Do y'all use golems in your game? And Ben, please kick us off about flesh golems.
Okay, so the classic golem is a creature made from clay that had life inscribed into its forehead and was breathed life into. And flesh golems are a thing, and that's a complete abomination, because Jews have very specific rules about the way we handle our dead. You're not supposed to touch dead flesh. So the fact that there's a flesh golem, there are all sorts of, there's dragon bone golems. Now, what other types of golems were there? Is just, those are not golems. They're just creatures that they named golem.
Yeah, it's not a golem anymore. The second that you make it from something other than like an inanimate matter, it's not a golem.
Now, I want to push back on something also because we're doing Jew stuff, and I agree with you what you're saying, that the attaching flesh to the word golem sucks. But like, Frankenstein's monster is a golem, right? Like, no?
I don't
No.
think so.
No, Frankenstein's monster is an intelligent living creature.
Wasn't the golem also on
No.
in some tellings that it knew kind of some stuff in the way that Frankenstein's monster knew some stuff?
And it wasn't intelligent enough to speak, even in those tellings.
And also, it didn't dance Putin on the Ritz. I always find that I always like the trope of the golem. I always thought that, like, maybe it's not explicit. I always thought that like Frankenstein was an interesting telling of that story, in the way that you could also say that like the Incredible Hulk is an interesting telling of that story.
Captain America is a telling of that story.
That one too. Yeah, I was gonna say that one as well.
Can I ask a question about that?
Please.
Okay, so okay, when you say Captain America is an example of that, is it explicit? It's explicitly the themes of him, right? Or is it that he himself is one? And if so, how does that
Captain
jive
America
with...
is a golem.
Okay, so then Captain America as an actual golem, but he's free thinking and whatnot. So besides the flesh issue with Frankenstein, why is Frankenstein not also potentially considered a golem if it's about sentience?
I think he's a metaphorical golem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, more than like a literal actual golem.
Okay.
When we to address one of these questions is, do you use golems in your game? I do. I think that when you honor them of the thing that Reed just touched on, that like made out of an inanimate matter brought to life, and then it's a defender. It protects something or someone who needs protecting. Is like the tenet that I keep in my games and my ideas. That like you can create something that defends. That's why I think the Incredible Hulk is in some of these other readings, that it's usually he's protecting someone when he's not freaking out and all the other stuff that they put in there. So I think that's why I like incorporating into my game. It's like you make something, someone makes something that because they need protecting, and then they mind it protect, and then the complications from that theme. I always thought that like, yeah, Frankenstein's monster maybe is a little bit just like we're fucking with life. I see what you're talking about. That like fucking with life is extreme. Jews don't do that ever. We don't care. We live our life. We eat some stuff and then we die. It's fine. It's right. So I always thought that like it was an interesting like telling of the story or rendition of it, but like more explicitly because Captain America and in my thought the Hulk defend folks who need it. I thought that's the tenet that I lead on.
But Hulk wasn't made to defend Jews. Captain America was specifically made to defend Jews. Issue 1 of Captain America, the title, or not the title, the front page is him punching Hitler in the face.
I agree with you. I'm just saying that explicitly Captain America is. I always thought metaphorically the Hulk spoke to that, especially when he was like fighting the Golem in Marvel Comics, which I always thought was so funny.
So where my hesitation with including Golem in my games comes in is if my players want to fight them. Like that makes me feel uncomfortable, because like if we're creating this creature that's meant to protect something, right? Like using that for evil and then having my players fight it just makes me feel like icky, and I don't like it. So I don't normally include them at all, just on the off chance that some sort of combat happens.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. I would never put that in the hands of baddies for sure. And like if that did happen, because D&D players love to fight things, I'd be like, well, after a round of this, then a child hops out and be like, no, you're fighting my friend. Yeah. And then they'd be like, oh no, you're the asshole for fighting this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I've basically done that in a game before. Like I had, basically like, just like they found a golem in a temple that they thought was abandoned, and obviously the golem couldn't communicate, so it just assumed that they were like invaders, and then they started fighting it, and then someone came out and was like, "What are you doing to our defenders?" Like,
I love that. Oh, that's a good idea. Sorry, yeah. VJ, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I had a question, but as what I just said actually cleared it up, so that was perfect.
There's also the fact that it's definitely an HP sponge, that like you give it like 400 HP, and then like later on when everything's chill, you see someone like mush some clay into its leg. Yeah. It's all fine. Like I definitely see your trepidation for doing that. I think that there's like, you know, you can tell your players that this thing is off limits, or at least friend, and you kind of deal with that after maybe a round of combat.
Yeah, big friendly giant type energy.
Yeah.
So the tagline for this podcast is TTRPGs and wider pop culture. Do y'all consider the Iron Giant a golem? Like what is the criteria for like the?
I don't consider the Iron Giant a golem. Golems are specifically made by rabbis to protect Jews.
Okay, so, and also if I ask anything or anything that makes anybody uncomfortable, please let me know. We'll stop there. We'll pause the recording. We can talk about it. Whatever's necessary to make everybody stay comfortable in the space. Love having y'all here. Okay, so sorry, sometimes I have a hard time like putting my thoughts into words. Okay, so golem is only a golem if it's created by a rabbi. So then, outside of the obvious fact that like stone golems, dragonbone golems, blah blah, blah are taking from that information, are they then like in the lore not actual golems and just need to be renamed? Because as far as I'm aware, that's not how golems are created in D&D. And two, I don't think there's any like I'm not gonna say I've read every single thing that has to do with D&D, but I feel kind of safe in saying, at least for 5e, there's no like parallel to like a rabbi creating a golem in 5e and then us interacting with it.
I can tell you specifically, it's not in D&D. In the monster manual, it's like pull a spirit from the plane of Earth and shove it in this thing you made. It's like, that's not it. No, like they're that specifically thing. You're right about. I think you might. I also think that's pretty being explicitly essentialist, which is fine. We're all on the Matrix. You know how you say you're essentialist on your sandwich making. What is that one where it's like is a s'mores sandwich? One of those matrices. For me, I feel like it's moving one step backwards from that. Someone making a defender out of an inanimate material, and that person is probably like a leader, maybe religious leader of that community, and that community needs protecting, usually from a dominant force of, pilgrim folks, crusaders coming to fuck up their shit. So it's usually like a particular people who need defending from a majority attacker doing stuff.
I think that D&D golems are not golems,
They're
right? Like in the like 3.5 edition monster manual, it talks about how like every round a golem has like a chance to be possessed by a chaotic evil spirit, and if like that happens, then they'll attack the closest person to them, and like a golem would never attack who they're meant to protect, like ever. And so I think at that point it's like another instance where you're taking a word that you found and separating it from everything that it's supposed to be, and I think they just need a new name, because at this point like they're not even golems. So like you can have like a big claim monster man and you don't have to steal our word for it.
I'm gonna disagree with you that they aren't Jewish, because D&D also has its roots with David Arneson, who was one of the first players, one of the initial game designers, and he was Jewish, and he was one of the ones who brought golems into, because of his knowledge of Jewish folklore, into the game. So I think spiritually they are golems, because that is his history and his legacy, and part of his legacy in the game. But as far as on the letter being a golem, I think you're right, though.
Do you think that they started like that, but do you think that they are now Jewish? That they are now still golems, like in 5th edition?
Even in when they were being designed, do you think that like the knowledge about them was adapted to like make them better fit into this heavily combat focused game that maybe made them, even if they were derived from golems, maybe like once they were put in the final version of the game, not really anymore?
I'm not sure.
It's a perfectly acceptable answer.
I am looking up the stat block of it in the first edition in a monster manual.
I also did not know about this dude.
Me either. I like my whole context around, like, I know there were additional people because there's like Bigby's hand, Tensor's floating disc, like they had like their characters put into it and whatnot, but like my whole context around D&D is like Gary Gygax.
And then the thing that always fucking bothers me about all this is that like the folks who work there now are like praying at the altar of him too. Like there were all those articles going around a few years ago that was like, yeah, Jeremy Crawford like prays at the, like it says, but is it Dungeons and Dragons, and like is so held to this particular idea and essentialism of what it is. Like it's never going to change. after once it's set in stone. That always just bothers me so much.
That's not Jewish. That's American.
That
Well, I guess then that like leads to the whole thing. It's like, do we think we can ever get another TTRPG to replace D&D in like the broader culture?
No.
It's like,
Yeah, I think it's too late.
get ready for like 5.5 and 6.
Well, they just announced, I mean, not to date when we're recording this, but they just announced that they're bringing Spelljammer back. Like,
on 420, like in this, we're recording this on 421, and there's been announcements, Spelljammer, all those great things like coming back for those listening to this in the future when this is happening.
I always find it so strange. Maybe, and this is also sort of like the dissonance I feel is like, it's wild that we have a game, an oral tradition, an oral storytelling game, where it's like, let's talk and fight and make and play games and roll dice, and we're going to talk to each other, we're going to build something together. And then this company has come in and be like, we published it, and you have to buy it, and you got to look at it, and you can't change anything. Like, that's so wild to me that we have a boardless game of impossibility, of ultimate impossibility and imagination, and it's like, nah, the stuff that's in this book is correct, and we paid some people to do it, and you got to give me $30 and then pay again for D&D Beyond.
well, it's interesting because I don't know if maybe this is like a generational difference, but I've never played D&D like that. Like, no game I've ever played has anybody said to me, the rules in this book are it, the lore in this book is it, that's what we're playing. Like,
Okay.
I have never played a game that isn't, I mean, that's a lie. I played one. My first time playing D&D, I was like 11, and I played a D&D with my dad, and he ran like a module that was in there, but even he made stuff up, and even he made it easier for us to play, because, you know, we were children. So, like, I've never played with anybody who has been so stuck on what's written that they are not flexible. And so, like, I hear you, and like, your experience is valid, but like, that's never something that I've come across.
I agree with you personally. Like, I've also come to D&D through fifth edition, and I was exposed through podcasts and D&D media, and that is very much from the school of the rule of cool and making a good story and all that stuff. But like, then you hear folks talk about this, and even like, I don't know, they do this on NADPOD sometimes when they do their Dungeon Court segments. They go and see what Jeremy Crawford says. They look at the book, and I'm like, man, people asked you guys because you play D&D and they want to know what you have to say. You don't have to check raw. And like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't play that way. I don't know anyone who plays that way. But a lot of people still feel really tied to what's published in the book. And you know who feels tied to what's in the book? Hasbro, who's making a ton of money off of it. Like, it's more the dissonance of what happens at your table and what's published in the book, and like, has to be taken as canon in order to promote people buying it.
I think probably in terms of the content that we produce, I might be the sort of most guilty person here of that, because for a while, most of my D&D content was just like, hey, here are cool, like, rules, like, exploits, and, like, synergistic combinations, and, like, here's a cool thing that can make you actually get a simulacrum of an ancient dragon, maybe. I agree in the sense that, like, I don't like the whole monopolization on, like, the idea of creative, like, group fantastical storytelling. But, I do, maybe I just haven't been too exposed to too many other systems, but I do like to reward game designers, at least. Like, I do think that there is value in role-playing games beyond just that. I do think it's still fun to engage in a rules-based system and just see what you can do with what you're given. I like having those constraints personally, and I made a lot of content around it for a really long time, so I don't know, I think there's something to be said for that.
No, it's so valid. Like, that's my favorite and least favorite part of D&D is how crunchy the rules are.
I also have no problem with rules crunchiness. I always think of, and maybe I came down too hard because I'm still so annoyed at the amount of money that
I'm not defending, like, monetization. Like, I'm not defending the extent to which Hasbro has, like, monetized. I'm just saying, like, oh, dude, these died. Okay. I'm just saying that, like, I do think that I don't know. I don't know exactly what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying. That's not what I'm putting on you. I think I like D&D the bones. I love the the skeleton, the gameplay, the rules, and like there's nothing about like checking out raw for like does swim speed matter, or like how do you swing a sword when you're in the water, or if you have to fly or something. I just think that like I don't give a shit about their story at all, and that story stuff is the thing that makes it all really makes it all complicated. Like Bahamut is this. If you're going to put Bahamut in your game or Tiamat, it is this, and like you're checking like. If you know how we keep looking at the monster manual, right? Is like we're looking at the stat block and like what does it mean that this thing can do? But if you look at that stuff next to it and you're like, well, all golems need to come from the earth, from the elemental plane of earth. I'm like, I don't give a shit about that. The
Okay,
story.
then maybe I'm less guilty of this than I thought, because I've always been explicitly like, hey, like paladins don't need oaths. Fuck that. It's less stuff like that.
I love that.
Yeah, we're on the same page, Ezra.
Okay.
I love raw. I love numbers. I love the numbies. I love putting the numbers together, and I like game mechanics. Like I'm also a game designer. All the homebrewing I do, I design game mechanics. But like the story that comes in that book, like don't make me follow the Forgotten Realms. It's the Forgotten Realms that bothers the shit out of me. Like I can't believe you're making me try to live in the Forgotten Realms, and when I'm allowed to tell this story at my own table.
And with how much content there is, shouldn't it be like the well-documented realms?
You know, let's not get into Forgotten Realms slander, because I could go for days. I do want to, if it's okay, redirect and talk about Warforged for a little bit.
Sure.
And I really wanted to.
Yeah.
I have this tattoo right here, which is my little Jewish robot. So, and I love him. The robot, I think, is a offspring, a generational tie to a robot to golem. In fact, explicitly, the robot was created in Eastern Europe by some Jews and put into a play, RURs, like the automaton as it was first known. So, like, I think that making something out of an inanimate object and then giving it life and having it be a part of your life is kind of where robots came from. But like then it became its own thing, especially as Asimov, also Jew, great, but like that lore kind of took on its own biz. And I feel like robots are a different thing than golems, and Warforged come from robots. And like they're not golems, but they're all constructs. Also, the other thing I really wanted to say before is that like you have a word for this. It's called constructs. Just call them constructs. Iron constructs, flesh constructs, clay constructs, dragon bone constructs. Use that. You have this word already. It's in your book. Like use that. Don't use golem.
Just one quick question on the note of golem. Do you think switching it to like there's I don't know if it's like a third party thing or an official 5e thing, but there's a stone guardian, which like featured in one of my games as like a workshop protector when my players were breaking into somebody's stuff, and like they didn't fight the stone golem, the stone guardian, not stone golem.
A little Freudian slip.
Yeah, a little slip. But yeah, like does the obviously construct great swap out, like because like you guys said, they're not like swap out of that because you already have constructs, but does guardian feel like it evokes the same like feel and like feel as golem for you?
No, but it's really funny that you mentioned Guardian, because the Shield Guardian in the Monster Manual is much closer to an actual golem than the golems are in the book.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, like I said earlier, I think that finding a different word it would be enough, because at this point, in my opinion, they're so separate from what we know golems to be that like it would be different than like giving a new name to goblins, right? Because goblins are so rooted into anti-Semitic stereotypes, calling them like the Stevens isn't gonna like really make any sort of change. But at this point, because they're so separate from that traditional view of what a golem is, I think changing the name is enough, and Guardian is fine.
I see, VJ, you're doing the thing that someone would do if they were thoughtful, right? Is like wow, we should put golems, real golems, in the monster manual. And if you don't want to use the word golem, let's use guardian, because golems are protectors, etc. The golem in D&D, and I think you said this, and I want to underline this and highlight it. The D&D golem is not a golem. It's just a thing.
Mhm.
So that's why call that shit constructs, and then a guardian or shield guardian, as Basic Human Kindness just said, like that. If you want to have something that's actually mythologically golem-y, or has the same intention of golem, then you can use a different name or make sure to or shape it accordingly. But then you can have golems in if you made them what they were.
Yeah.
Like it's hard when the word we're saying means two different things, both
Mhm.
the good one and the bad and the incorrect one.
Well, I actually argue you can't put golems in D&D because Judaism is not in D&D, and you can't have a real true golem without, like Ben said, a rabbi creating it and for them to protect the Jewish people. Like that's what a golem is. And so if you don't have Judaism, how do you have golems?
Well, Hindu traditions aren't in D&D, but we still have Rakshasa.
Yeah, and I have a problem with that too.
Touche.
I was kind of meeting it on its like bullshit melting pot of all mythologies and things. So I see where you're coming from, Reed, for sure.
So I want to ask if anybody has any other things they want to add about Warforged.
Yes.
Okay.
I love Warforged because I think that they bring up some really interesting questions about what it means to be alive and what it means to like humanity, for a lack of a better term, because like not everybody in D&D is a human, but like what does it mean to be alive and like have a soul, and like Warforged not having like a lifespan because they haven't been around long enough. Like I think that that's so neat and so interesting. And again, I think it's separate enough from a concept of a golem that you're free to, in my opinion, do whatever you kind of want with them. I think they're neat. I think that they're a cool option, and I love magical technology in games. I think that that's a really fun aspect of high fantasy that doesn't get explored enough. So go off.
I love that. I want to say something really conflicting.
Do it.
Golems are not robots, but they're both Jewish. How about
Yes, I love that.
Like Warforged, I can do it. The questions you just said feel inherently wrestling with what you're supposed to be doing. And
I absolutely love Warforged, because all Warforged are trans.
So true.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The typical Warforged has a sexless body shape. Some Warforged ignore the concept of gender entirely, while others adopt a gender identity.
Gender
all Warforged are
envy.
trans.
I love that. That's so fun. That's so incredible.
Okay, but it sounds like they're assigned like non-gender at birth. So if they choose to stay non-gender, are they actually trans? Because they're like, that's the gender that they were assigned, right? So like,
Non-binary is a trans identity.
Oh yeah, no, I've just seen some jokes about like, I'm intersex and non-binary. That means I'm cis.
Good jokes about that. I have one more question about Warforged, and then I'd love to talk about like actually having Judaism and how you'd put it in 5e if like it was going to be an official thing. How would you want to do it? And I think my question is specifically for Eric, because which obviously anybody jump in, but so does the lore of Warforged, how they came from constructs initially, and nobody knows how they became Warforged and sentient at this point? Like it's a big mystery. Like Keith knows, but he's not telling anybody apparently. Like does that lore that they were constructs, and now they're and something happened in that in between process, and now they're Warforged, not change your thoughts on whether or not they would be what D&D is trying to make as golems,
No, I see what you're trying to do. I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt there that like they're doing something intentional and helpful.
Oh, no. I don't let me be clear. I don't think they're doing that either. Not at all. I'm asking like I don't think there was any intention to do something like that. I'm asking with the lore that we do have,
Sure.
does that like with that lore, does that change like what you were saying about like Warforged not being golems, being robots instead, but both being Jewish, like that kind of thing.
Sure. Let me try to, this kind of ties into what I said before. I just don't care what they wrote in their book about the Forgotten Realms or Eberron. I just don't care. I can't follow it. I think it's boring as it is. So like, that's what I meant. I didn't mean to say that you were doing that, but I think you were meeting them as at where there are that they wrote a thing that should be acknowledged. I don't care. I think that when we're talking about at large, the larger genre constructions of fantasy technology, which I also fucking love. I'm 100% on board with y'all. I love motorbikes that are fueled by like magical engines. I fucking love that shit. I love and I also love robots. I also and the stories of robotics and all that good stuff. So when we argue those things, I think that there is a tradition coming down from golems of what does it mean to create life? What does it mean to have the word of God at your disposal and you bring it to life? I think that's what we're struggling with, which is also why I like the Frankenstein story, even if they're not a golem. I think similar themes, but that's just me. So we're talking about themes and we're talking about genre. So yeah, so I guess that like fuck the Forgotten Realms, but like Warforged are cool and like fantasy robots are cool. That's where I come down on it.
Okay, anybody want to add anything to that before we? Okay, so
you want to fight me? Do the other rabbis want to jump in and tell me the fantasy robots aren't cool?
I just got up on my pro Warforged soapbox. Don't make me get off of it.
Rabbi Hillel fucking coming at me, telling me the fantasy robots aren't cool. Like, come on.
It's the one thing all Jews agree on, actually.
So final question. Final question. How would you put, I already know that all of you are putting like different aspects of Jewishness and Judaism into your games, listening from this conversation we had. And so your choice of explaining how you've been doing that and, I think the questions that I have in my head, say more, tell me more about it. And also, how would you put that in 5e official stuff? I think are two different questions because there are things you can definitely do in your home games and things you can technically do in official 5e stuff. But can you though, as far as like the people in charge go? So like, the question for you, either whichever one you want to pick to do, or if nobody wants to do one of them, that's fine. Tell me more about how you're putting Judaism and Jewishness into your fantasy, or how would you put it in official 5e?
I'd like to tackle the how would you put it in official 5e, and the answer is simple: you can't. It's like you couldn't put your blackness into 5e.
Say more.
Because I don't understand what it's like to live as a black person in America. Being a black person, is my understanding, is a wholly different experience than being a white person. Just like being a Jew is a wholly different experience for them being a cultural Christian. I don't know what your beliefs are, but I believe you were raised culturally Christian with the cultural default setting. And Judaism is more than just a religion. It is an ethnicity. It's a set of beliefs. It's the way as the world out view. It's a common suffering, and you can't put that in a book and expect people to understand what it is, especially a book like a tabletop role-playing game.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
I agree. I think that there are ways to put Jewish values and Jewish beliefs and allegories for Judaism into your game in a far more respectful way than is being done currently. But I don't think there's any way to just like take the Jewish religion and just like plop it into D&D. And then kind of touching on the other question of like, talk more about how you put Judaism into your games. The way that I approach religion in world building is it comes from a very Jewish standpoint. We were talking about like, I don't give my gods all the answers, but also like I make my clerics and my paladins and my religious characters like ask questions and wrestle with like whether this is a path they want to take. Like it's not just like you talk to the god once and now like you're chill. Like it's a very present relationship. Religions are really based in community in my games. Like there are, you know, houses that have like tables that like have so many chairs smushed around them that you can't conceivably picture people sitting in them. Like that's what people are seeing. It's religions that are rooted in tradition and history, and like that's kind of the way that I approach my games in a very Jewish way. And then I ask and explore Jewish questions of like, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be alive? What is our purpose here? And also like, what is just? What is right? What is the right thing to do in any given situation? And I think that that is very Jewish, but it is different than putting Judaism into D&D.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow.
I think to follow up on the whole "don't do it" in the official source material thing, I just don't know if like the general populace is educated enough on Jews if it was in there to do that justice. I'm worried that we might like accidentally spawn a new wave of anti-Semitism if we tried, kind of thing. So yes, I completely agree with everyone who's saying like, yeah, just don't like. In terms of what I do in my own games, I think I keep a lot of the same attitudes towards like religions broadly, but generally, I'd like to talk to my players about what they want to get out of their games more broadly, and a lot of them like are a lot of them most of them aren't Jewish, so I don't think I've gone too far out of my way other than throwing like a couple of like symbols resembling Judaism here or there that have gone super into actually putting it into the game. And you know, I'm like, I don't want to stray into like weirdly like proselytizing, even though that's not a thing that Jews really do. But you know, I don't think I need to put it in D&D too much. Mostly what I wanted to focus on here is just informing people about how Judaism is currently being misused in the community, and I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I've learned so fucking much. I have learned so fucking much if I'm the test case here. And Eric?
Yeah. God damn it, Reed. Why'd you go before me? Fuck. Everything Reed said plus. But Reed, I think the things that I said in the beginning of this conversation, are about I'm really trying to examine some of the storytelling that we take for granted in terms of America, like American and Western ideas of storytelling. Like, man, like, why did the race essentialism of stuff, I think, is something like we needed to the mono-racial, as you know, how we touched on the colonial imperialism thing. Like, man, why does everything a whole group of folks doesn't have to be bad, because it's usually like it comes down on Jews, and I feel very aware of that. I feel like when I create religious aspects and communities, similar to what Reed said, like it's not just gonna be Catholic and then we get to say good or bad, you know, like that can't just be what religion or what community building is. I feel like I spend a lot of time talking about relationships between people and characters, and like what is good, how do we support each other, where is there a certain amount of trust, especially when power comes involved. I think is something that we deal with a lot. Man, I would really love to run like a magical realism game set in like a shtetl in like the 19th century. That one.
I have a TTRPG for you to play that in.
I know that one exists, but that one's great, and I'm inspired by that. And like the like shtetl parts of everything is illuminated. Like, what if that was a D&D game? I think about that on a regular basis. But yeah, and I also try really intentionally to create holidays that mean something. I think about Jewish holidays a lot and how they're tied to a thing or a tradition or like a reason, and I really like reverse engineering from that. I did a winter holiday for a one shot we did on Join the Party, and it was it was the winter gift giving holiday, but I took a lot of the stuff that I knew from like Hanukkah, and I'm like, well, and just other gift-giving holidays, and I was like, oh, but it's more about the fact that we give each other gifts and we think about each other. That's the thing that keeps the darkness and the cold away. And like that's and there is like a tradition of that, and like keeping the cold wind away because we are together as a community, and like warm, and like that's all winter holidays are, right? You do something special once it starts to get dark and cold, and like trying to have intention behind that. I really love inventing holidays. Inventing holidays is a lot of fun. So similar to what Reed said, is like having intention behind the religious things you do. And I'm not just saying this on behalf of Jews. Like, talk to any other folks who aren't Christian who have like religious intention behind their stuff, and see if you can pull their things in as well. I'm thinking about a lot about Ramadan right now, and like the idea of fasting and comparing Yom Kippur fasting to Ramadan fasting is very interesting to me, and like the different ways that you do that. I like, you can talk to your other folks who have religious things and putting that into it. Like, religion isn't just Christian. That's like part of the thing that I really fucking like a lot.
Eric, I think we just became best friends.
Okay, so Ezra has left us for a moment to reconnect, so we're going to give her a chance to get back in here. Before I like, just make sure I'm not missing anybody wanting to add anything additional to this.
No.
How was it?
Hey Ezra, can you hear us?
Ezra,
I also want to say one more thing. The thing about putting it into 5th edition. The problem that we have inherently with fantasy is that there are these fantasy races that stand in for peoples, like, and that's the whole problem, right? Like, don't make dwarves better Jews. Like, don't make them neater Jews. Like, I don't need that. Just, like, leave me alone. Don't make me a metaphor in your game. And like, there's a very big difference between representation of like seeing. I would rather see a Jewish player be in a thing more. Like, that there are no Jews. There are very few Jews in the major D&D stuff right now. Like, Hurwitz is like half Jewish, and so is that other guy in Critical Role. And like, they don't talk about it, you know? And like, I want to see that more just as much as I want to see representation of real people who exist and being in positions to flourish and have the marketing and the full power of the institutions that are making these things behind them. Like, I care more about the representation of the real people than putting that shit into the actual book.
I only watch actual plays if they have either a POC or a Jew in them.
So valid.
Yeah, no. That's kind of been my criteria a lot lately since I've been cutting back on the things I'm listening to.
You guys should all listen to Join the Party, where we
Yeah, what a great segue. Let's talk about our games that have POCs and Jews in them.
Perfect. Yes. So, yeah, anybody that wants to plug something, please do so at this point. One at a time. unless you just want to be shouting
over each other, pushing each other out.
Let's shout over each other. It's very Jewish.
This 2-hour conversation, we're pushing each other in the face to plug first.
The same order we introduced in.
That's perfect. So
I am Ben. You could find me Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Trans Tales, 8 p.m. Eastern. It is a D&D campaign about bringing down capitalist turfs, starring someone else who is hopefully going to be here today but couldn't make it. That is Haya Ella, Butterfly Astrophysics, Ian Walls, Wow It's Ian, and Nonstop Pole Pop. And it is a great time, and you should check us all out. That's Trans Tales on Twitch.
And everything everybody's saying in here will also be in the show notes. So if you miss it, just check it in there and with direct links.
Well, I have been Reed. You can find me on TikTok at DND5E, Twitter, Instagram at Reed Barkowitz. I'm also the creative director and a dungeon master and player over at Starlight Tales. We tell science fiction and horror stories, putting queer and marginalized voices firmly at the helm. I'm currently running a horror campaign, a cosmic horror campaign set in the Astral Sea. So that's something that you can join us over on Twitch. I'm also going to be an Arcane of Unprepared Casters. That comes out every Monday wherever you get your podcasts. So yeah, come listen. It's gonna be a heck of a time. And yeah, that's me.
Ezra? Wait, Ezra, we can't hear you.
Oh no.
What happened?
I'm waiting for Ezra to boom in like the voice of God. I loved it when that happened.
See. Okay. Okay. We're gonna come back. We cannot hear Ezra right now. Okay, so
I can plug for Ezra if needed.
yeah, go do it. I was about to go, but you do it.
Ezra says follow her on TikTok at genre fantasy, spelled the way you think it is.
And Eric.
Hell yes. This has been so much fun. This has given my soul some light. I don't get the chance to talk about it with Jews a lot, and you get that from talking to other marginalized communities. And VJ, I'm so happy you're here and facilitating this. But thank you. This has been a lot of fun, and apparently Reed and I are best friends. You can follow me. You can listen to Join the Party, which I am the DM of. We are, after this is published, the last episode of our second campaign is finished. Our second campaign is finished. So if you want a fantasy story, you can listen to our first campaign. If you want like a sci-fi superhero modern world campaign, it's our second one. And we're weekly, comes out every Tuesday. We are still staying going forward. There's going to be no breaks. We got one shots. We're doing a thing in the middle, and then we're still going. So listen and marathon all the episodes, but still check out the new episodes that we're putting out. I'm very excited about what we are going to do next. And you can find that wherever podcasts are sold, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Join the Party Pod. And you can follow me at L_Silvero, EL_SALVERO, my name if I was a Lucha Libre wrestler.
And once again, all of this information will be in the show notes. It'll be like, read all the information that was just said here. So you'll be easy to go in and find everything. Thanks everybody for being here. And
thanks for having us, VJ.
Y'all.
I've been looking forward to this.
Y'all have to come back. Obviously, not just to talk about your Jewishness, like Reed. We're talking about mind flayers at some point.
Yeah.
Always welcome back to talk about whatever you want, TTRPGs and wider pop culture. But also, would love just to have y'all back to talk about more. Those of you listening, we didn't get to your questions. Apologies. But either we'll do this again and those will be part of the next round, or I'll check in and see how my amazing guests feel about answering some of them in the document and making that available to y'all. But yeah, thanks for tuning in to VJ Talks. This is really great and special episode, and see you next week. Oh, why am I waving? Y'all can literally not. I just waved at y'all for no reason.